The way forward is through honor and veneration of both masculine and feminine in balance within themselves and each other. Too often in our society, women are either hyper feminized, like this woman on the right here on Instagram. They're hyper feminized in an attempt to be more appealing to men. Or, like this woman on the left, they're over masculinized, which somehow becomes the only model for success in society. However, a positive self-image doesn't involve competition with an impossible standard, nor does it mean compromising your authentic femininity. Presumed successes on either side of these extremes for women comes by way of masculine imbalance. Pleasing men or being like one of the guys is fine if it's authentic for you, but what if it's really not you? Right? So this is, I think that's Rosie the Riveter on the left. And you see that image a lot. And this image is it's masculinizing the feminine in a way that is basically saying, if you want to have some kind of sense of self-worth, it's going to be through the masculine, which is a terrible, terrible message, right? Because it's, and a lot of women believe this, which there's a lot of women that are putting on this, and it may not be their authentic energy. For a lot, it's not. They are putting on this persona of this strong. These are all masculine attributes, essentially. They're not trying to be men. That's different. This doesn't mean women are trying to be men, but they're putting on this like competitive type of attitude, which is a masculine attribute, as that is the only way to success in our society today, which is completely ill-founded. It's completely wrong. The way through, of course, is not for the feminine to pretend to be more masculine, like when it's not authentic, but the way through is to just be more authentic, right? And this woman on the right, of course, this isn't for women. This woman is not being authentic she doesn't appear to be anyway. I don't know her, but she doesn't appear to be authentic in her femininity, because she's actually hyper feminine. And what I mean is that this is pleasing to, a 15-year-old kid or something, or even, a grown man with a 15-year-old mind, which is, but this woman is, she has this appearance only to appeal to men, right? But doesn't necessarily, probably doesn't appeal to a lot of women that are somewhere in a balanced state. It doesn't appeal to most women. It only appeals to men. But the men it appeals to are men that are in the, imbalanced state of the masculine anyway. For me, this just looks ridiculous. It's like everything's just wild proportions, and it's it seems like it's out of balance, right? There's a balance that needs to be happening, and between both of these two panels, we have over feminized on one and over masculinized on the other. So the goal, of course, the idea is to seek balance. So there are all manner of discussions happening centered around this topic, centered around inclusion, especially when we're talking about inclusion of women into video games, either as characters or working as in video game development. In the masculine-dominated world that we live in today, there are all sorts of movements to include more diversity in every area of life, including video games. This conversation has been dominated by those who are demanding change by any means necessary, and yet seem to not really accept or respect and honor the place where the masculine can find harmony. Let me explain what I mean by that. The feminist movement has changed quite a lot since it began and has been gaining many female critics, such as Ella Whelan, author of the book What Women Want. And I think there's another book by pretty much the woman who started the second wave of feminism. Her name escapes me now, but her ideas have been completely rejected as well, and the narrative keeps changing with feminism. It keeps getting more militant, and because there's a deeper pathology, there's a deeper psychological issue that's not being addressed. And so Ella, from her book What Women Want, and many other critics, they're expressing concern about the ever-changing feminist movement. It's very confusing now, and it isn't what it used to be. And they're concerned about the simultaneous denigrating message that women are weak, that they need feminism, they need a feminist movement to help them. And at the same time, it demonizes men and characterizes any criticisms of their message as bigotry and misogynistic. If you have anything to say that's critical of the modern feminist movement, you're all of a sudden you're a misogynist, just automatically, right? So that's a problem, and it's become militarized, and it doesn't encourage any kind of dialogue, right? It doesn't encourage any kind of honest and open dialogue. It just shuts everything down. So a woman true to her authentic feminine nature, if that is her core energy, and keep in mind, just because you're female doesn't mean you have feminine core energy. You might have a strong core masculine energy, right? So it doesn't always, same thing for men, it doesn't always mean you're going to have a core masculine. So a woman that's true to her authentic feminine nature, when compared to the masculine, is not weaker or lesser than her counterpart. If let's presume she has a counterpart, maybe she does, maybe she doesn't. But this comparison only appears from the masculine, imbalanced point of view. After all, it is the masculine that competes and wants to know who is the best. If you're always thinking this is better than this, and there's this value judgment happening constantly. People go through their entire day and everything's this is good, this is bad. It's just a constant value judgment. Then there is a certain your understanding can be your openness to hearing other perspectives without deciding it's good or bad. That's diminished, right? So when we account for the balanced masculine and feminine view, we can understand the immense strength that women possess in ways which could easily destroy a man, by the way. Thankfully, this strength of the feminine is tempered by the deep and nurturing feminine wisdom of nature, embodied in all of the physical world. And don't forget, there are several ways in which the Kali aspect within the feminine, should it manifest, could very much destroy the masculine. And when I say destroy, I don't mean annihilate completely, because then you wouldn't have the energy polarity anymore. The most important thing to remember about masculine and feminine energies is that they're fully interdependent, right down to the fundamental nature of our universe. They're not opposite, nor do they work against each other. It's the reason why it feels so terrible if masculine and feminine are at odds, because in nature this is not a normal state. This is not a natural state for the masculine and feminine to always be at odds. So that's why in the human sense it just doesn't this disharmony feels terrible for everyone. Everyone's frustrated, right? No one's winning. While it is certainly true that the masculine has come to dominate much of society today, there's no doubt about that, the most effective approach seems that men and women both learn to honor and embrace the feminine again. Yes, men, come back to the feminine. This is something to be learned by drawing upon the nurturing wisdom of the feminine, not by using more of the same masculine energy to force men to change their attitudes, right? So in feminism today, there's this ultra masculine energy that has been taken on in that movement to try to just force, just the use of force. It's like, why? I would venture to say that many feminists that have left probably didn't feel like they're being true to their authentic self, so they left the movement. And I think many that are still in it are not really being true to, if their core energy is feminine, they're in disharmony, trying to take on more and more of this masculine energy and trying to further what they want through force. That's a masculine thing. That's just piling more masculine on top of the already masculine dominated society we have. It's not going to get us anywhere. So the way through is not for the feminine to become even more masculine in order to compete, because this just leads to more of the same, and this drives the imbalance further. I should mention that the role one plays in this energetic exchange between masculine and feminine, of course, is not determined by a specified or unspecified gender. Boom, I covered all the genders right there. Specified or unspecified gender. Boom. So that should make a certain group of people happy. Meaning, your role in a harmonious relationship doesn't depend on male or female. Okay? Instead, and most people know this, but we have to cover some of these bases, right? This does help to remind ourselves. Instead, it depends upon the interdependent and supporting structure inherent in the polarity of masculine and feminine energy. There is a need for each other, right? And not just a human need, but there's a need to have that opposite energy, to have the other side of that polarity, to have access to that within yourself and others. But you can't really access that within yourself if you're not authentically interacting with others of the opposite energy, if you're not having authentic interaction. Because how are they going to model that behavior for you? How are they going to model some of that? So in other words, masculine and feminine tendencies are each afforded their strengths as well as their weaknesses, but they work in such a way as to support and balance each other. It's the whole reason any of this is here in the first place, right? So we have to try to return to that if we can. At the end of the day, it is within the heart of a woman or a man who must honor their core energy as well as the core energy of others. Both men and women have varying amounts of masculine and feminine. And, a lot of us are anchored to one side of this energy polarity or the other. And this is the case regardless of our biology. A character like Laura Croft, while firmly seated in her feminine, she's quite secure and strong in her masculine as well. This variation or mix of energies is different for every person. So it's different proportions, and that could change at every moment of the day, right? It's not like I'm a 70-30, masculine to feminine, and it's always like that, right? No, it's in every moment, depending on what you do, how you act, how you respond, what happens. This energy is always changing, right? And you sometimes will affect that consciously, sometimes you won't. Just make sure that no matter where you're at in your masculine or feminine, that it's really who you are, right? As a woman, just make sure that you're being authentic. You're being true to your feminine core. If you're feminine, if you have a feminine heart, be true to that. If you're a woman and you have a masculine heart, be true to that, right? Be true to it. And the same goes for men. You just don't want to betray your true nature, because if you're true to that, you're in harmony, right? Now we're able to be open. Now we're able to grow, and things are happy. But if we have a feminine heart, for example, if I have a feminine heart, but I'm putting on this masculine day after day after day, and I'm already in a masculine imbalanced society, and I just do more masculine to try to compete with the dominating dynamics of society, that's going to lead to disharmony. It's going to lead to a whole world of pain and suffering and misery, right? And we're already adding to that daily. So we don't need any more of that. Now, even in the case of androgynous characters, such as Flea from Chrono Trigger, you thought I might have forgotten about Flea from Chrono Trigger. Oh no, I didn't. There is typically a predominant masculine or feminine energy within the individual. So even within an individual, like a character like Flea, or someone who is intersex or transsexual, they're going to have there's going to be a proportion that's slightly skewed more towards the feminine or towards the masculine. Some people are right down the middle. It's rare, but there's some people that are split, like right down the middle. But typically, the way this works is the energy is going to be fluctuating all the time. And so as it fluctuates, the times you're in the middle may be short. Whether one is a cross-dresser, intersex, transgender, gender fluid, doesn't matter. The same interplay of masculine and feminine energy is occurring. However, the fluctuation is, and the amounts and the proportions are always going to vary between individuals. To see that we are more than our biology is to honor our highest selves and to see each other as far more than just physical creatures. To see women as nature, life, the mother, the physical world, starlight, flowers, and everything else is to honor the feminine within all of the universe, including ourselves and each other. To see men as the spiritual, the father, the metaphysical, or the great expanse of outer space is to understand and better appreciate the masculine energy and why it operates in the manner that it does. First, I want to thank you all. Thank you to my supporters on reinstallpaul.com who get to watch this series many months before it appears on YouTube. I really appreciate your support, and I'm happy to bring you another series that I think is pretty interesting. Quality content like this doesn't get nearly the same attention as other types of videos on YouTube, and so your support really has made all the difference. So thanks so much, guys. If you're viewing this series on YouTube right now, please give this video a like and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. And if you would like to support my work, please join my member site at reinstallpaul.com. Thank you, and I'll see you guys on the next video.